my second time filming this video because my phone decided to delete the first video, so there's that. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cheryl, and today I'm going to be doing my review for the long-awaited Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas. Now this book is the 5th book in the Throne of Glass series, so there's not much I can say about it without spoiling everything. But overall, I really did enjoy this book. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I had some issues with it that kept it from being a full 5 stars, and I'll talk about that in my spoiler-filled discussion part. But yeah, overall, I thought this was a pretty solid follow-up on the series. I'm very interested to see where the series is going next. If you haven't picked up this book yet, or if you haven't picked up the series yet, I would definitely highly recommend it if you like badass female assassins. So that's pretty much all I can say without spoiling anything, so I'm just going to hop right into the spoiler discussion. Alright, I'm going to kind of split this into 2 parts, the first part being what I loved about the book, and the second part being what I did not like so much about the book. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into what I liked. The side characters. They are what made this book for me. Manon, Lysandra, Alide, Lorcan, just all of them. They just made the story so much better and so much richer that this book would have fallen flat without them. I mean, like, the friendship between Aelin and Lysandra, the budding friendship, I guess, between Manon and Aelin is just phenomenal. I loved seeing what happened with Manon and her 13, and I literally squealed out of excitement when they appeared again. I thought they had died, and I was like, they're back, thank God. It's just... I love these characters, and the little side romance, side plot thing with Alide and Lorcan, like, I just wanted more chapters of them. If I could have an entire book just dedicated to them, I would buy that in a heartbeat. They are my new favorite couple, and it's just, Sarah J. Maas has a way of writing side characters that makes them even more interesting than the main character, and that's just, I love it so much. It's just, all of these characters, they were just like my babies, and I just don't want anything bad to happen to them. Another thing I loved about this book was just Sarah J. Maas's writing. With each book that comes out in the series and each book that she writes in general, her writing just improves dramatically. Now don't get me wrong, I didn't hate Throne of Glass, but you can tell it's a first novel, and the writing between that novel and Empire of Storms is just so different, but in a good way, that makes me just... And it was interesting to see Aelin start calling in all of these old debts into, like, the direction that the story's going in, where, you know, it left off on the huge cliffhanger of her shoved in this, like, iron coffin, and what's gonna happen next? Is Rowan gonna find her? Who knows? But I just liked seeing the direction that the story is going in, and I really hope Chaol makes an appearance in this next book with the army, which is, like, what everyone's expecting. But just to see the direction that the story is going in, I'm like, I want more. Alright, let's talk about what I did not like about this book so much. And you're gonna find that this might be actually a longer list, but don't let that fool you, because I really did like this book overall. But yeah, let's just get right into it. Let's talk about the big thing that everyone dislikes about this book and this series and a lot of her writing as a whole, and that's the lack of diversity. Good God, there are so many characters in this series. There are so many that she had so many opportunities to write diverse characters in, but she didn't. Unfortunately, a lot of her characters were just basically the same character, just told kind of over and over again. The only diversity she really wrote into this was Aiden saying that he was bisexual, or basically that he's been with both men and women and has no preference. And so, while that's cool, that's not diverse enough for me, and I know it's not diverse enough for a lot of people, especially when it's fantasy and you have so many opportunities to include it. Alright, another issue I had with this was just, Aelin just felt like a plot device, not a character. The only time you really saw her was when she was calling in old debts and setting up the next scene. You just didn't really get any of, like, the snarky, kind of badass female character that she was in the first couple books. And don't get me wrong, I know that that was Celaena and this is Aelin, and she's kind of shed the identity of Celaena entirely, but I feel like she should have kept some of her personality and didn't. But she just feels like the only reason she's in this book is to move the plot forward, and I just didn't like that. And also, I agreed with... oh, what's his name? The guy in the beginning of the book that was like, you're just a hot-headed teenage girl who's not fit to rule. I'm sorry, that's how I feel. that's also how I feel, because Aelin really didn't prove him wrong. When she gets mad or when she gets upset, she just releases this unimaginable amount of power, which is all fine and dandy, but that doesn't mean she's going to be a good ruler. And I don't really see her being a proper queen, or I don't really see her being fit for the role. Sorry. And just the story just felt kind of disjointed as it started coming together. As all these different plot points with like Nehemia and Elena, I think is how you pronounce her name, all of them, or Elena, all of these characters and all of these plots are starting to come together, but it just kind of feels awkward and kind of disjointed, and it's left some plot holes. And it feels like Sarah J. Maas decided to take the story in a completely different direction halfway through writing it. The first couple books just feel entirely different than the last couple books, and it just, while I like the direction the series is going in, and while I did enjoy this book, it just doesn't feel like the same series it started off as, and it just, I don't know, I'm a little disappointed in that. And I know everyone is like hardcore shipping Dorian and Manon, but I just can't see them together. Like, my fear is that Manon is basically going to become a softie and stop being this badass female, and I just don't want that. Also, the Dorian from the first couple of books just feels entirely different than the Dorian we have in Empire of Storms. And don't get me wrong, I know that's partially because he's been through so much, and like everything that happened with his father in Queen of Shadows, and like, I get that. I do. But he feels so cold and shut off and hard and just not the same character that he was in the beginning of the series. And like, Sarah J. Maas just has a preference for writing these cold, emotionally cut off characters like Manon, Rowan, Aelin, and I just was happy not to have more of them, and I feel like Dorian's becoming that way, and it's a little disappointing, honestly. Oh, and another thing I noticed, someone pointed this out on the internet, and then I could not stop seeing it, but it was Sarah J. Maas's, like, love of the word maleness. She wrote that into her book so many times. The maleness of this, his male face, the maleness of blah blah blah, and like, she didn't even just only do it with her like the immortal Fae men. No, she did it with Dorian too, the maleness of his face, and 2 lines later, the maleness of his face. Like, stop. It's weird. I don't particularly care for it in the writing. It's a little silly, and I can see why everyone just kind of started making fun of it, because it's kind of hard not to, honestly. But yeah, those are kind of my jumbled thoughts on Empire of Storms. Don't get me wrong, I love this book, and I will definitely be picking up the next one whenever that finally comes out. But yeah, I did have some issues with it, and some of these issues I just can't gloss over. So yeah, let me know what you thought about the book down below, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Bye!